How have you been? It's been a little while. I know as far as traditional podcasts, I haven't seen you do a show in quite some time, maybe 5, 6 years or so. I know you've always been busy in the background doing your shows, but how have you been? What's going on with you personally?
It's been a nice vacation of having no job.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
A nice forced vacation. But
Okay.
Roger and I, we realized that we needed the break. We have been going at Netflix for 5 years,
Right.
and when you're writing a show, at least the way we do it, it's kind of 7 days a week. It's really tough. So we're doing that for 5 years. We'd have some, doing writing is harder when the writing's over and you're just producing it, approving art. It's easier, but it was kind of like 6 months, 7 days a week, and then 5 or 6 months, a little easier. But it was really draining. And yeah, it's not anything we wanted. We wanted Paradise and Farzar, especially Farzar, to go a little longer because we had this plan of bringing both shows together, and we had an ending we were excited about.
Okay.
But you can't control these things. It's like a miracle to get picked up in the first place.
Right.
So we just trying to practice gratitude and so lucky to even have these shows in the first place. And you can't control it. You can only do the best you can in the time you're given and hope for the best. And sometimes it goes your way. We're really riding high after those first few seasons of Paradise, and probably the most success we've had. And then things changed. Leadership changed at Netflix, and a lot of different factors. COVID had a lot to do with it, and then the strike. Unfortunately, Lance passing away, which is a really sad thing, and to lose our number one actor from Farzar didn't help.
Right.
So you just can't control any of this stuff. So you can drive yourself crazy, which we did. We spent a long
Understandably
time
so.
going nuts. We went nuts, and then we came out the other side of it, and like, God, we're burned out. Maybe I can get to see my kids, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And now we're finally in a place where we're happy and we're working on stuff. We're doing creative stuff again. We're pitching again.
Awesome.
We created a lot of stuff, and we'll see what happens. But we know at least a few things we're getting done.
Right.
So
Which I know one will be able to talk a little bit about, so
yeah,
I'm happy about that. But really, the big thing I have to say is I'm happy for you, truly, because it's one of those. It's a tough situation because obviously you want your creation to stay into fruition for as long as
yeah,
possible. When things are out of your control, things like this happen. But it kind of becomes a little bit of a blessing in disguise because it lets you kind of take that step back, focus a little bit more about yourself, your family, and a lot of people forget in the world of creative, you can get lost in it very easily, especially when you're committed to a craft that takes as long as it does.
yeah,
So, I commend you guys for sticking with it as long as you have. And, you've been doing this for 21 plus years at this point, in all different kinds of mediums, but you've been consistent. You've been like that real dynamic duo. And it's just awesome to see that despite what we've, had to face with losing the both of the shows, you have that success in being able to tell those stories that you want to tell. So we can go right into that real quick, but I want to talk about the fact that it's not something you haven't done before.
yeah.
So you've had success with it, which is awesome. So
The same artist is doing the cover for us and the
that's awesome.
colorist.
Awesome.
So yeah, Jeff Rebner and Mick Rose, they're this team. Jeff does the line work, Mick does the color, and they are the best we found. For stuff like that.
That's
So we're
amazing.
we're pumped.
So when it comes to that, what made you think about, hey, we want to tell this story, we can do it in other avenues. Obviously, you didn't want to go to the point of having to pitch it again, plus in some cases not having the rights to do so. What was the decision behind for Brickleberry and then now going to the comic book format that made you feel like it would work?
It's really, Roger's a huge comic book fan, but really for shows, that's really the only route possible because you just don't have the rights. I mean, maybe one day it will change, but the way it's been since television started is if you want to be on their network, they have to own your characters, your entire show throughout the known universe for all time. It's just how it is, and it sucks. And people wonder, hey, why are you guys doing those same two voices on two different rednecks? Because we don't own the last rednecks.
Right.
We love the characters, but we don't own them, so we have to keep changing it up if we want to keep doing any kind of version, because you just can't get those rights back. The best thing you can do is pray that they will give you the rights to do something like a comic book. And fortunately, they were nice enough to give us those rights on Brickleberry, and Netflix was really cool and said, basically, any show you've done for us, you want to do comic books, you go ahead and do whatever you want to do with that. So not only do we have Farzar, we have Paradise, we have a pilot that we did for Netflix that didn't get picked up called Super Fucked. It's a superhero show. So hopefully that's going to be our next comic book, because we wrote a pilot and we're really happy with it. And, one lesson you got to learn when you're doing this is you can't beat yourself up, because it's really not about the creative. It's about what that network wants. What's that mandate? That morning meeting, they said, hey, we want more of this. We don't want any more of this. That's really why shows get picked up. And it is so much timing and luck. So you just got to have a good show in the right place at the right time. And if any of those things don't match up, it's not going anywhere.
Right.
And that's usually what happens.
Makes sense.
But yeah, they were really cool. So we have a script for our superhero show. We already have a cover done by those same two guys that did our Brickleberry cover, and just finished the Paradise PD Farzar cover. It looks incredible. Hopefully we'll get to release that soon. And they've already done the cover for the next comic.
Wow. That's awesome. So you've been busy, which is good. So you got a little back to reality, but again, when you're at it and you've been at it so long, you just kind of, get back into that groove, which I'm happy for you. And I hope that this creates future opportunities, because what can really be a great success story is when the comics do well, because we are in an age where comics are popular more than they've been. And as somebody that grew up in that era when they weren't popular, it can open so many doors, and it can get maybe Netflix to think about it again and say, you know what, maybe they were onto something. Maybe we missed out. And, again, you brought up, there's a lot of variables, and a lot of it is, potentially woulda, coulda, shoulda, like they could have, maybe we should go back, but they like to stick with their guns. And at this point, it's really about closing that story the way you wanted, which is important.
Yeah. I mean, there is a number that's, if it hits, it's undeniable. If it's a huge success,
right,
I would assume we'll be animating that comic book for Netflix,
which would be amazing.
So it's tracking to do well, but I don't know if it's going to do that well. Right. But there absolutely is a level of success that they can't look away from. So we just have to see how well it does.
Understood. With this comic book, now we're tackling two of your IPs. Yeah. So that sounds challenging in itself, because for the audience, we haven't had a crossover yet. And obviously with Brickleberry, you had that Paradise PD crossover, but by the time the book was done, the show wasn't out yet. So doing that in comic form, are you breaking it up into issues that you might do into a graphic novel down the line? How much can you share leading to that Kickstarter?
That was the plan to begin with, that we were going to do kind of issues. And then we started talking about doing a Kickstarter for each issue. And I'm like, well, that means potentially we could leave the story untold again. So what if the first Kickstarter does well, the second one doesn't? It's going to be another cliffhanger.
Right.
And
that's
then
a good point.
Scrapped that. We said we're just doing one big book, and we're going to put the whole story in one book and the ending, because we were going to do one that was much longer. And then we said no. We want to get it out there, and we wanted the whole purpose to do this is to be able to tell the ending that we had for all these years. So we're doing a good sized book that's going to tell the entire story and have an ending. So we're just doing one.
And I assume variant covers, and you're probably going to have a ton of perks and
a ton of perks. And the first cover I've seen is the best one that we've ever done.
Awesome. You've also been throwing some other stuff on your social media, so you obviously give us some flashbacks of some great clips from the different shows. But you have something new that you mysteriously started posting about and brings back the personality of two of our favorite characters. So
the Scrubs, yeah.
I'm intrigued because you've been very mysterious about it.
Well, as I was talking about, like every time we pitch a show, they own it. So with this show, we're trying something different. What we're trying to do is start online, get it popular, and then we would own the show. We're going to try to develop the IP, and I tell you that Facebook's doing great.
He's the smartest man I know and I ever met and ever will, except for maybe the baby Jesus might be a little smarter than my daddy. Uh-oh. Breathe, daddy! Sometimes he does forget to breathe.
The Facebook is doing better than anything, and it's probably got over 1 million views already. And we haven't really even posted that much, but yeah, it's really doing well. So we're encouraged that this might actually work. Just doing these, just like I took a freaking Cologuard, and because I'm 50, and I was like, what if a porch pirate stole this package? And I was like, that's a Scrubs. We got to do, and I just released that one this morning.
Yeah, that was great.
I stole this package off this dude's porch. Cologuard. Sounds expensive. I'm excited to see what it is. Happy birthday.
And yeah, already almost 100,000 views just on Facebook. So I've seen other people do this. Has Been Hotel did it. So we don't know if it's going to work, but it is working pretty well so far. And as long as we don't sell a show somewhere else and get busy, we're going to keep doing them until hopefully we can have the leverage, say we'll do the show for you, but we own the show. We made the show. We built this show up. You didn't do it. We did. Right. So we need to own it. So when you cancel it, we can do whatever we want with it. It's more of a licensing thing then, right? It's not like, please give us a show. And then, they want to own it because they're going to put the money into making it, promoting it, and everything. But if the shoe's on the other foot, if it's us that built this brand, then we get to keep it. And then when it gets canceled, I don't have to beg to do a comic book or take it to another network or just take it back to Facebook, right. And just start doing the old. I think something's got to change with. I just when you spend years developing this show, I mean years, like on Farzar. Years. Like we pitched Farzar before we pitched Paradise. That was going to be our next show after Brickleberry because we wanted to do something completely different.
Right. So
we pitched it. It almost got picked up. Some upper executives said they didn't like space. So I got the hint. They were basically like, look, when Brickleberry came on here, it blew up. We want to own it. We can't do Brickleberry because we want to own it. But basically just give us Brickleberry. I know everybody gives me so much shit. You're just doing the same show. I'm doing what they asked me to do.
Yes.
They wanted Brickleberry, basically. So that's what we did, and it was a huge success for them, And look, I love all the voice actors from Brickleberry, so I had no problem just moving them over. Right. And, it ended up being a different show. It is very similar. I'm not going to argue that it's not very similar. Obviously, it's our humor. And it's got a lot of the same voice actors and some of the same personalities. But Chief is different from Woody, know, and Kevin's very different from Steve. And even Robbie and Delbert ended up being slightly different from the other guys because they had different backstories. And Delbert was a Disney star, we just went different places with it. But that's exactly what I was asked to do. Am I going to turn down a TV show? No, especially not a show that I love doing. We would have done Brickleberry forever.
Right.
But so what was your question? I'm just talking my ass off. And you
totally answered it, which was those shrugs. And I have to
Well,
tell
yeah,
you that I love that idea. I think that that's going to work for you because that's the way it has to be. You're
yeah.
right. Everything has to change, and somebody like Ryan Coogler. I'll just use an example with Sinners. He
Oh,
fought.
that was when I heard that I was so happy. I
That
was like,
is, we need that
creative.
revolution.
Look,
It's
creatives get paid a lot if in success, but they
right.
also get their creations ripped away and then set on and not used.
Yes.
It's like we had so many chances to do stuff with Brickleberry that we just didn't get to do because we don't own it and we get told no a lot. The comic book was great. They did say yes to that, but someone approached me wanting to do a whole bunch of merchandise and clothing because Brickleberry, when it went on Netflix, was huge. And we just got told, no, you can't do that. But this is just going to make you money. We don't care. No.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating because I was like, we made those guys and you guys didn't even pay us that much.
Right.
And how, if you're not going to use it, why not give it back?
Yeah.
But they don't. And, I guess it makes sense from a corporate standpoint where they just want to own IP and make money. But creatives in that capitalism thing doesn't always mix because it's, it's so important for creatives to be able to use their creations. And if they were doing something with it, I wouldn't care, but they're just sitting on it. I mean, I guess the old episodes, we are lucky that the old episodes are still being seen because a lot of guys get their stuff buried.
Right.
By HBO Max will just take it off and you'll never see it again. So we are lucky that people still get to see it, but we would like to do more. And I think the fan base is still there. I still see new Brickleberry tattoos, and people ask me every time we announce something new, how about Brickleberry?
Yeah.
And it's like we've been trying for 10 years to do something. We want right now just to get permission to do a Kickstarter for a Brickleberry movie.
Right.
And we have not been able to get that permission.
Understood. Yeah,
So,
it's a challenge because we use this theme a lot on the show. It's you're dealing with the machine in any corporate entity, and as a creator, when you create something and you get to those points where you're going to get that mass audience, because that's to me that's other than the financial support, it's the reach. Getting it to be seen in the world, and it's hard to compete and say no, no, no. I want to keep, but you guys have 2 decades of experience. You have fans that support you as the creators. They support the shows. They obviously talk about the shows, but they know where it came from. And I think that what you're doing between the comic and the little clips is a great way to kind of feel that out and get people to get involved and share it and talk more. And I love the current events aspect because it makes you have unlimited content when you think about it. Like all the Stranger Things stuff was great.
yeah.
And
With that girl who keeps getting them nosebleeds.
we gotta wait for the next big show for you to
I
get
know
us a
anything.
stockpile.
Maybe I should do the Game of Thrones show, but the good thing about those guys is it's simple enough that I can animate it all.
That was gonna be my next question was,
Yeah.
are you the one doing it? Like, did you
I am an animation major from the University of Georgia. I'm not good at it, but I'm good enough.
You do a great job because I mean, obviously, your art style is your art style, which is uniquely you. And seeing the characters, you get that reminiscence from the past shows, which is great. But I was curious, if because I do the creative side, but the animation side is not my skill. So I'm always like, man, just to see it come to life, it's different, as you know, and being able to take that to the next levels is great because you just have your partner in crime, Roger, that you guys can just do the dialogue all day, which is awesome.
We literally record it in my car because if you don't have pay for a studio, we do have a studio, but we're trying to do these as cheaply as we can.
No, that makes sense.
The car is a perfect studio because it cuts all the echo. That's how when we started on the Damn Show back in '98, we record everything in the car. So we're still doing that in the pinch. If we're doing a podcast, we'll record it on the good mics, but everybody's watching on their phones anyway.
Right.
So it doesn't have to sound perfect. It doesn't have to look perfect. The important thing is just to put it out there, get it done. If you have an idea, I hate having an idea bounce around my head that I can't get out. Yeah, I've had ideas sitting in there for 10 years sometimes. And when I finally, like on Brickleberry, Steve with the country songs. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh my God! Oh, of course.
It was 10 years we had Butt Love. We thought of that song, and the whole double entendre, and we couldn't figure out anything to do with it. So when we finally got that one done, it was like, oh, we can finally stop thinking about this crap, just get it out of here and let people see it.
I have to give a guilty pleasure, which is Butt Buddies.
Butt buddies, butt buddies. We stick together when things get muddy. We are butt buddies, butt buddies. You started where I parked, but I found a way into your heart.
Oh yeah,
Ever written.
Well, Tom Kenny, anytime he gets to sing, yeah, him and Dana and Dave and Cedric, they all incredible.
Yeah,
singers.
great chemistry.
And
they have great
can all
chemistry
sing
too.
so well. I mean, that's why we did the episode of Paradise. It was sort of like the episode of Brickleberry, but when
Yes.
the kitty diddlers or fiddlers or whatever it was,
Yes.
just because they're such great singers, we wanted to, before we knew the show was wrapping up, says that we got to get one where they can all sing together, and they, nailed it.
So let me ask: are you the one writing those songs, of course, or is it a mix between?
It's
you
a
and
group
Roger?
effort.
Okay.
Jeremy Sasinko is a writer that has been on all of our animated shows. So he's really good. He's musical, can play the guitar. So almost all the melodies are him.
Okay.
And sometimes he writes the lyrics too, but most of the time it's a group effort on the lyrics. So like on the country episode of Brickleberry, we just spent days in the room just pitching lyrics, pitching songs.
Okay.
And the two guys who wrote that went off to write the script, and we were in the writer's room writing all the songs. So they didn't write any of the songs. They just plugged what we wrote into the script. But that was one of the most fun episodes. Yeah, just writing songs is just fun. It doesn't really feel like work at that point. It's a lot of fun.
It's great because again, it fits the worlds that you've created. It's always over the top,
Yeah.
but it's just appropriately fitting. And no, I hope that you continue that trend. With some of the future stuff that you're working on. So
Yeah, we didn't know Dana could sing. He did an incredible voice for Dusty, and then the first time he sang, I'm like, you're going to be singing a lot on this show because he's like a trained singer.
right. I mean, listen, when Dusty's doing those high pitched screams, he's
Yeah.
hitting them notes. That's a good sign
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
Breaking that glass.
yeah.
Dusty's one of my favorites. He
I
does
love
an
Dan.
amazing job. A role in Farzar as well, right?
Oh yeah, he
was
had all
Bazarak, right?
He had all the roles. He was Bazarak, Billy, Feichel,
Oh,
and
freaking
like
Billy.
Billy only here because you not care about Billy's. Barry can kiss Billy's ass.
Not unless he bids.
a ton of like ancillary side characters. So he was 3 of the main characters.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's super talented.
Question about just starting at Brickleberry. Obviously, you answered the question with when you came to Paradise PD. As far as the theme, it became like, hey, do more of this. What was the thought and the inspiration behind the focus of being occupational comedy? Because I feel like that's a common theme as well.
My brother-in-law is a cop, and he took me on a ride along, and that was the nuttiest night I ever had. He pranked me, He like gave me a gun. He was just messing with me all night. So that was kind of what got the ball rolling and started thinking about just wild stuff that happens to cops and how much more we could do than we even did on Brickleberry. And the fact that cops now too, but back then were having a moment where they weren't so popular. They were having a hard time getting people to work there.
Right.
So that's when we're like, what if there's like an old guy, they can't even get rid of him because it got nobody to replace him.
Right.
So it just kind of started dominoing, and we just started coming up with, you got a good idea when it's easy and it's fast, and the ideas just kind of come,
Right.
So it came, we pitched Farzar. They were like, we're not doing that one. We want a show from you. Make it think about like Brickleberry, like Workplace, like more grounded. And maybe a week later, we were pitching them this. That's how fast it came. And it came out fast, and it just had tons of momentum. And before we knew it, we were writing a script, and we were picked up. And it happened really quick.
and then you got 4 strong seasons out of it, which were I feel they were dynamically different, which is great because I think that you also stepped out of your comfort zone because with Brickleberry you tended to not have continuity because you
Yeah.
know like somebody can die one episode and be
Yeah.
back, but then you built out a story that was much more fleshed out. I think you did a great job with that.
Yeah, Netflix wanted that. Netflix
Okay.
was their binging model. They wanted, kind of an episodic story, something with an arc, cliffhangers. And we were hesitant because we were just like, why don't we just do it like Brickleberry? That worked, and people like that. But once we started doing it, we liked it because it made it easier because we had a jumping off point. We knew how we wanted it to end. We just had to get there with Brickleberry. Every episode, we had no idea. Well, we got to come up with 3 stories starting from nothing. For Paradise, we always had the arc, especially season 1, to fall back on the dirty cop. Like, we need to talk about this a little bit. And we knew where we were going because we knew how it would end. And then when it came out, people, like, I remember screening the first episode, like, when we revealed that there was a dirty cop, everybody's like, oh, like, wow, we never had people kind of excited about it. It was more just about the jokes.
Right.
They're actually excited about the story.
Exactly.
So it was a kind of a different thing. It was like, oh, okay. People actually, even though it's a silly show, they actually care. It's like a mystery, they want to, so we were into it and, kept it going somewhat with Farzar. And the new show that we're pitching is even more into like an episodic type, season long arcs, so I think it would even lean heavier than Paradise into that. So it's exciting because you kind of have the skeleton of the story, and then you just got to figure it out instead of just, what are we going to do this episode? It's actually easier.
Okay. You have a platform. It's like a Vimeo type platform where you have all of your stuff hosted outside of the traditional platforms.
Yeah.
I think it's a really great idea. Is that something that you've always wanted to do? Because I know you've talked in the past about, putting it on here, not being allowed to post this and having restrictions. What was the thought process behind kind of building a platform, almost like a Patreon of all your archive footage, but then the ability to add more?
It really was, YouTube just kept getting worse and worse, and they kept flagging more and more of our videos, and it seemed like anything we would try to post would get demonetized or flagged. And because we joined YouTube in 2006, man, right after our first show, Stanker Vision, right when it started, and we were instantly a partner as soon as they started the program. We had to be one of the first couple thousand partners they had. And it was going well. We were getting paid and posting our stuff, and it was getting millions of views. And then just, I guess partly our fault because we got busy and we weren't like keeping up with it. We weren't posting because we had shows to work on. We didn't have time.
Right.
But yeah, it's just like even the old stuff, like the Bobby Possum Cod's Meth, man, that thing got 10 million views and then it got flagged.
Right.
You let it get 10 million views and then you're gonna, and yeah, it is a crazy video. But when it gets like flagged for, you got to be 18 signed in, the videos drop 90%. Just drops to nothing, and it's just really frustrating because you don't know what they're gonna have a problem with. You don't know when you're gonna get hit. So with this, we don't have to worry about anything. We just put everything up there, and anybody who wants to see it can pay a few bucks a month, and it's tons of content. And we put the Scruggs video up there. We're putting new stuff up. New animations that we've done in the last few years, we're putting up there instead of YouTube. And yeah, it's going well. And I think we're just going to continue to add to it as long as people are still into it. We'll keep adding stuff. And we're doing the Brickleberry podcast on there, which has been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun to talk to the guys and kind of go back and talk about the show and how we started the show. But yeah, it's called Damn Show Plus. You can get it at damnshow.com, and it is a Vimeo OTT, they call it. And it's a cool service. Yeah, I'm glad they have that. I'm glad they offer that.
Very inexpensive considering the amount of content you have. I mean, obviously, potential users will vary. I like, just being able to have it accessible on my mobile, and anytime I'm in the mood to get a good old school laugh,
Yeah, and we're coming out with a Roku app soon.
Awesome.
It's been worked on. So hopefully it'll be out and available soon.
That's exciting. Cool, cool. I would love to ask you about some of your inspirations for the style of comedy that you guys do that could be maybe animated prior. I think we've talked a little bit offline on some of that. Um, any comedians that you know may have been inspired over the in the past 15, 20 years or so that maybe helped inspire you come up with some of the types of jokes that you guys do, because I feel like your brand is very unique. But we've had some comedians and some shows and some content that a lot of people don't know about, that
Yeah.
is similar.
I think as a kid, my granddad was the first person that I learned about dirty jokes and stuff, because my mom's very conservative Christian, but my granddad was in the army and he knew a ton of funny, dirty. So he would tell me these jokes and my mom wasn't around, and it's just like I would like roll on the floor laughing at some of this stuff. So I think that's what sparked it originally. And then as I got older, like Saturday Night Live, the years of Dana Carvey, Phil Hartman, and then Sandler and Farley, you know, as I was coming up, I loved that stuff. Man, that was just the greatest. Just and then you can talk with your friends about it, like, oh my God, and quoting the stuff. So I was a huge fan of Saturday Night Live all the way, man. Monty Python, definitely like that. And even like Three Stooges, I could still watch that and just bust a gut laughing, like Mr. Bean. Man, I used to
Clever,
love
yeah.
that stuff. I loved it, And then more recently, Curb, I'm a
Okay.
huge fan of Curb. I couldn't, I was so sad when they ended that. I just couldn't get enough of that kind of stuff. And the Simpsons was a huge influence. I love The Simpsons,
Okay.
because man, I guess I was like 14 when it came out, and it was so naughty. I mean, it seems so tame now, but you couldn't wear the shirts. It's like,
Right.
oh, we got this thing, they won't let us wear it, and it just made us love it more. And it just thought it was so cool that something on TV you can't even wear it to school. That's how bad it is, and it just feels like you're just breaking the rules to even like it or try to sneak in with that shirt on. And that whole feeling, I always just love that, man. That just doing something that you shouldn't be doing, or saying stuff or laughing at stuff you shouldn't laugh at.
Yeah,
So
that's true. That was me for South Park. So
yeah,
my
South
first
Park.
day in high school was South Park, and had my shirt on and got in trouble for wearing it.
Yeah, South Park blew away the Simpsons when they came out, man. It's like a whole nother level. That was wild.
Well, different, yeah, different edginess, if you will.
Yeah,
They push the bar a little bit in a different way.
yeah,
And I mean, I feel like it's funny. I've thought about that in the past too with, your shows. Like, I don't feel like you intentionally push the envelope. It's just, it's out there to be out there. And some of it, it's not so far fetched. But, obviously you have shows that are there for shock value, and it's a little more obvious,
yeah.
and it's topical. And, I mean, we do get a little peel on once in a while, which I'm okay with.
Yeah.
It's always good.
We really
But
just doing stuff that makes us laugh, and hoping other people like it too.
well, that's the
Yeah.
core of it.
Yeah.
That's what's important. But let's go back to the Kickstarter, because I'm sure that people are watching are like, all right, you talked about it and then you kind of segued. I did that on purpose. But let's get to the meat and potatoes as much as you can share. We have a pre-launch page that's been up for about a month or so. We have, some excitement for that. Can we get a tease of maybe when that might launch?
It is launching March 3rd, and that is concrete. We're not changing it again.